When the Queen's birthday honours list is announced, the names usually making headlines are the stars of stage and screen, but the coronavirus pandemic means that the scientists behind the UK's fight against COVID, they're the ones in the spotlight this year.
Professor Tom Solomon, the director of the UK's Emerging Infections Research Unit at the University of Liverpool, is one of them. He's been made a CBE, and I'm very pleased to say we haven't had many guests with us on the sofa, so I'm delighted. On this day, on your day, you're here with us.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's nice to be back.
How does it sound, that Professor Tom Solomon CBE?
Well, I'm still struggling to get used to it, actually. I got the email a few weeks ago, and I thought it was a spam or something. I wasn't really expecting it. And I was about to delete it, and I showed it to my wife. It had one of these attachments, and I showed it to my wife. She said, well, you better open it. And I opened it, and it was a letter. It was for real. And so she thinks that CBE stands for Complete Bleeding Egypt.
How very levelling that she should be saying those things. And do you know, one of the things I wanted to ask you, we'll talk a bit more about some of the science in a moment. But what about the role of family and friends in keeping you going? And I know, you know, we talk a lot about the health professionals, the frontline health professionals.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you have been under immense strain, haven't you?
I think I have. I think a lot of NHS workers have, a lot of researchers have. So I'm one among many who've been under a lot of strain.
Like what? I mean, give us an idea. When has it been hardest? When have you had those days, I don't know, when you come back from the work and you really feel the pressure? I
think the start was really difficult because, like everybody, we didn't know how terrible this virus was going to be. And so, you know, like everybody, I was very worried about my family. And then at the same time, we were having to work so hard to initially fund the research. I'm proud that I was on the committee that decided to fund the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, which has been so useful. So we had all that going on, and then we were also running out of Liverpool. Colleagues of mine were running large national studies looking at all the hospitalised patients to try and understand why people were getting so sick and what we could do about it. So it was just a lot of things all happening at the same time, and needing also to be very flexible because we were learning all the time. We learned about the brain problems, which we weren't expecting. So we've launched a whole research programme looking at brain problems from COVID-19 as well.
I suppose also I think all of us have an immense respect for science now and what it does if you didn't before. But before it was almost like let the science, things evolve. You know, it goes at a certain pace, it goes at your pace almost when you're doing your research. And now the pressure to kind of do something quickly. Tell us a result. Why isn't your research quicker? Even when it was ridiculously quick. That must have been quite different.
Yeah, things have speeded up. So the traditional way is you do your research, you send your publications for peer review, reviewed by colleagues, and if they agree with the results, then they get published in a journal. Now people are publishing stuff, putting it out there immediately before it's been peer reviewed. And so that everybody can see the results and start applying them to their own settings. So that's happening a lot quicker. And the development of drugs has been a lot quicker. But also the public are, I think, a lot more interested in science now than they have been previously.
Charlie mentioned family, how they've been supporting you as well. Do any of them know? Because you've had to keep this a secret.
Yeah.
Apart from your wife,
she knows because she was there when I opened. And then a couple of the kids were there, so we thought we'd better tell all the kids. But that's all. My mum found out on the news last night, watching the TV news. And so, you know, I haven't told anybody.
What did your mum say?
She was very proud. Yeah, very proud. And I'm really thankful for the support of family and friends, but also the many work colleagues who I've worked with in the UK and around the world who've supported all the work we've been doing, not just on COVID, but over the last 25 years on a whole range of emerging infection problems.
You will know as well as anyone else, and I guess everybody in a way thinks they're an expert now. A lot of people taking on information we never thought we would about science, about medicine. We are at a very important point coming up now, aren't we? A crunch point, many people are saying, the June 21st date. The potential changes, the relaxation in rules and regulations. This decision is due to be made and we'll be told on Monday. What are you saying right now about what should happen next?
Well, I completely understand that people want to get back to normal and businesses want to get going again. So I've got a lot of sympathy for that view. But I don't think we can afford again to make a bad decision and open up on the 21st and then within a few weeks, we realised that was the wrong decision, and then we're having to go all the way back. And although the vaccines are having a massive impact and they're keeping the disease under control, we are dealing with this Delta variant, which is spreading much more quickly. And I think if you look at the hospitalisations, they're doubling. The numbers are small, but they're doubling approximately every 7 days. And so if we then suddenly say we're going to open up completely, we may end up with the hospitals overwhelmed again. So I think, unfortunately, I think we are just going to have to maybe give it another month until we have so many more people vaccinated, because at the moment only about half the adults have had 2 vaccines, and it's the 2 vaccines that are critical to protect.
I know one of the things that's come out of all of this is podcasts are booming. I know you're doing one as well, but has the information changes all the time. Honestly, we could have a conversation with you that would be different every day, couldn't we? Just in terms of what the pace of change,
Yeah.
for example, hospitalisations or infection rates.
Information does change, but I think a lot of the basic principles are not changing. And we've been I've been hosting this Scouse Science podcast every month from Liverpool, and we've had some great guests, including Jane Garvey from the BBC, Andy Burnham, Manchester Mayor. And what we do is we have a famous face and a scientist, and another scientist apart from me. We get them together and we discuss what's going on. And it's a very good way of certainly grounding the science and making sure we use language people can understand. And then also having somebody asking the kinds of questions that people want to know answers to. And yes, although numbers change every day, the basic principles don't. And I think people do now understand, even with where we're up to currently, you notice that people, if they're getting together, they're not getting together in big groups for the most part. They're meeting outside when they can. They're keeping their distance. So I think people have learned quite a lot about how we deal with this virus and how we may have to deal with future threats like this should they come.
Tom, can I ask you one last thing? A lot's been talked about how much more infectious the Delta variant is. Can you help us with a layman's idea about what that means? Previously, say, a group of 5 people in a room who have one of the previous variants, as compared with the Delta variant. What is tangibly, how is that different?
So the original virus that came from Wuhan, if one person had it, they would infect about 3 others if there were no interventions.
In a room situation?
Yeah, just on average.
Okay.
Obviously, if you're in a packed room, you infect more. If you're outside, you infect less, but on average. This virus will infect maybe about 6 people or 7 people.
So twice the number.
Yeah, it's about 40%, 50% more infectious. But that may or may not sound big, but when you escalate, it gets bigger more quickly, quite quickly gets big. So, but of course, with easing the stages of the lockdown, we always expected numbers to go up. The amount of virus circulating will go up and would have gone up without Delta. The number of infections would have gone up and will go up. We're not worried about that. That's what we expect. It's all about, can we stop the hospitalisations? And the Delta is allowing a lot more spread a lot more quickly, but the vaccinations are largely stopping people ending up in hospital. So if we hold on for another month, that probably will just tip the balance in favour of the vaccination, so we can protect the NHS, and then we can, as far as possible, get back to normal.
Will there be a socially distanced celebration of some kind?
I think there may be, yes. There may be. Well, I'm actually on call this weekend, so it'll be limited. I'm going back to the Walton Centre where I work in Liverpool on the way back to do the ward round. So it won't be there won't be much alcohol for me this weekend, but I'll make up for that afterwards.
Congratulations, and I think to your family as well. That's the thing.
Yeah,
I think
thank you
you'd
very
be
much.
the first
My wife
to say.
Rachel especially.
Oh, that's lovely.
Really love to see you here this morning.
Professor
Thank you.
Tom Solomon CBE. Thank you.
Thank you.